Today we're going to do another garden tour. It's not my usual day of the week, but I haven't been sticking to my usual day, so I thought I'd get something in. So here are those volunteer, the sunflowers. It's putting on another blossom down low. Here's the kiwi reaching for the sky. I'm really hoping for some next year that I can finally try some. I've been eating so many peas. They are abundant, not quite abundant enough to be worth trying to sell them, but abundant enough that I just eat them pretty much nonstop. On the other side, we finally have some updates. I've got lots of blossoming going on here. Little cucumber, some zucchinis I picked earlier. More blossoms, some beans in there. And over to another type of cucumber. I'm getting wet here. I spent the last hour or so weeding out all of this. When I say weeding, I mean this is just one pile, and that's actually a low spot in the ground. So in here I've got all this, the rhubarb that's all grown from seed this year. That's a lilac. There's asparagus in here. There's chives. There's an apple tree, lemon balm, lots more rhubarb. It's very small there, but this is one of the sea berries. So it had been covered completely. Same thing with that tree, and then there's another tree right out behind that stake. My blackberries have grown so long. They have all of a sudden had all this fertility this year from the new soil. So they are shooting out. So I'm going to stick the ends of those into some pots to get some more plants. I have the sprinkler on, so I'm going to get close, but I'm going to get wet. I've got my, where are they? Personal size melons here. There are a few hairy melons. There's some little ones started, but there are some that are now about an inch. That's about as wet as I want to get, though. I was standing directly in the sprinkler. Let's go over here. Sorry about the chewing. It's a lot of work keeping up with all this food. My pathway is gone. So in here I've got some carrots and such. Again, lots of peas here. On this side, I've got the tomatoes with, of course, some marigolds in there. And I'm just gonna try and get through here. So as I get into here, this is the easiest place to see the tomatoes here. These are the Brandywines, and look at the size of this one. So I'm hoping that the critters don't get to them first. We'll see though. There's lots more starting in here that are just small. There's the bigger ones underneath. It's going to be a very fruitful year. No signs of any blossom end rot or anything like that yet, which is good because I didn't test this soil. It's all just 100% compost. On this portion, I've got the chocolate cherry tomatoes. So they still have a little ways before they're all ripe, but you can see again just how many there are. So many, in fact, that I realized I'm gonna have to use metal supports on the top of these to hang my tomatoes from, because they snapped the lines that I had. I do have some of these that are ripening. This one's not quite ripe, but these tomatoes are so good that eating them a little bit underripe like this one, these ones don't turn a bright red, just for reference. These are chocolate cherry tomatoes, but eating them a little bit underripe actually isn't bad at all. It tastes still far better than a store-bought tomato. Again, Lots more in here. I've got some people who need some for free and some who are willing to buy some, including a restaurant in town. And then this is the Prudent Purple portion of the garden. Which, wow, that is, oh, actually, I see some red. I'm gonna have to look down there and see what it is. So this has been the least productive variety. Oh, but it seems to be the first to be ripening. I'm gonna have to go through here and see if I have missed any. This is the one you'll see a lot of other stuff in here. It's because I've got a bunch of other stuff growing in here, as well as a few weeds. So, it's only this big. That's okay, right? I just realized I still have more pear trees there that I haven't done anything with. So lots going on. Oh, I see more red down. Actually, I think I see one that might be fully ripe. Ooh, it was fully ripened and then eaten by, oh, this was my, earlier in the year, I had one where I said there were a lot of blossoms really close together. Unfortunately, the critters got to this, but there is, I guess, my first tomato. I'm gonna toss it back in there and it'll probably self-seed for next year. It'll be a volunteer. So I'm gonna keep looking in here when I'm off camera. Let's hop out. Here's another pile of weeds. There's cardboard underneath here. There's a walkway there. I've just picked a couple more zucchini. I picked a bunch of them yesterday. I'm hoping once these tomatoes are ready that I can start putting together a couple veggie boxes to send out. Corn is, I noticed that I actually do have some starting right there. I really shouldn't do this while the sprinkler's on. Over here, unfortunately, I've got some of my neighbor's lovely weeds coming in. But my grapevine is continuing. This was just from cutting this year. Some rhubarb plants that are doing well. I haven't weeded this portion yet, as you can probably tell. And if you look in here, there's a fruit tree there. That one's doing much better. This is probably the biggest one so far, other than my pawpaws inside, which I will bring you guys in because I haven't shown anything from inside. Look at the size of this rhubarb. Like it's not as big as, you know, an outrageous 20-year-old plant, but this plant was a seed 6 months ago. There's a sea berry. I just wrapped it around that stick. That one is a pear, I believe. My goji berries, the ones that were all in this area, completely covered with weeds. These weeds were up kind of this height. They were taller than this corn. They actually seem to have been doing the best. So it was a combination of laziness and intentionality. I knew that it was really hot, so I wanted to have things growing up over the garden, but I also didn't realize, I didn't know how to identify some of the weeds that we have. It's the first time that I've had this variety. And it only grew in places where I had planted a bunch of different things, so I wasn't sure if I should pull it or not. Now I know I should, but it sheltered things very well. And actually, there is another tree that was sheltered the same, and obviously some nice big rhubarb. I'm gonna get it out of the rain here. So things are coming along nicely. I haven't had much time for anything back here. I've been working 6 days a week and very busy on the 7th. Obviously I haven't filled the bird feeders, so I'll fill those up once there's not as much abundant food for them. I harvested a bunch of kale seeds, but here you can see a quick idea of what it is. So if I shake it, you can hear that they're loose in there, so they're ready. And when I open this up, it's just filled with tiny seeds. So if I go like this, I just planted, I don't know, possibly a few hundred kale seeds there. So I won't do that with the rest of them. That one wasn't necessarily a plant that I was all that fond of. I do have to go through here because this is where I have all those fruit bushes. And I can see my black raspberry, the thornless black raspberry there is hanging in there. I've left a lot of flowers for the pollinators. My gooseberries are doing well. I see more gooseberries. The strawberry plants are continuing to spread. So lots going on, and I've also left a lot of, there's a lot of milkweed in here. And I did have eggs on quite a few of them, so I'm gonna continue to do that because that's well worthwhile. There's also, of course, seeds from there. So I'm gonna slip inside here. Just have to get the door and get the dog. And here is my indoor garden. So this is the fig tree. So when I got it earlier this spring, it was just this tall. And so you can see it's big and healthy. I've got a bunch of gojis in here. This is how I water them inside. It's so much easier. This is actually just a catch basin for if a washing machine leaks. I no longer have a full-size washing machine that leaks. I have a small washing machine that doesn't leak. So I use this here and I just fill it up with water and they suck up the water as they need it. So here's a pawpaw tree. And that's mostly what's in here are these pawpaw trees. And they can't handle full sun for the first 2 years. So they have to get babied pretty hard for the first bit. Here's the goji berries. The ones in here are doing much better. I actually brought most of these ones in just recently. They were still sitting in their cups outside in the sun, unwatered. So they appear to be very hardy. I also have an experimental tomato plant. This was a volunteer into a pot that was supposed to grow Saskatoon berries, but I'm not buying from that supplier ever again because they were all just tomato seeds. And I don't know what type, but I hand pollinated these ones. So I have a couple tomatoes and I'm gonna see. This is not a south-facing window. This faces east, and that's really about as, it doesn't really get direct sun other than a few minutes in the morning, and I mean minutes. So I'm amazed that these are doing so well. I do keep this white curtain closed behind them to reflect all the light back. So maybe that helps. But this is the indoor part of the garden where chaos just is slowly going to take over my house. And I'm okay with that. Later in the winter, I'll switch to my light bulbs back to a full spectrum light bulb and then grow some of these around the house just for a little bit more life. But for now, I'm just gonna let them have the sun. So that is the garden tour. Enjoy, and I will see you all next week or something. For now, I'm gonna go grab a tomato and go for a bike ride.